more like a village inside a city.
Meet Major Carlos Estrain. He's a rather special detective, one of the few combating an often overlooked crime, and it involves something that you can't see, touch, or taste. It was a crime perpetrated by petty villains, but not anymore. Others are muscling in.
They're supplying a lot of clients that the legal sector cannot supply, and has become a really good business for criminals, because benefits are really high and penalties and chances to be catch are really low. Benefits are really high and penalties really low. Benefits are really high and penalties really low. Benefits are really high and penalties really low.
So, what's the crime? It's this: the illegal trade in refrigerant gases known as HFCs.
HFCs, or hydrofluorocarbons, are man-made gases and they're climate super pollutants. They're often many thousands of times worse than carbon dioxide, and they have a huge impact on global warming. They're commonly used in cooling, so for example in refrigerators or air conditioners, and even in heat pumps.
We are talking about climate change gases. These sort of gases are one of the main provokers of climate change.
So even though your air conditioning unit might only contain a small amount of HFCs, just that small amount of gas has a huge impact on climate change and directly drives many of the issues that we've been facing, such as forest fires and flooding.
Emissions of HFCs were growing so rapidly that the European Union introduced what's called the F-gas regulation. There's a quota system for legal supply and a gradual phase-out of these greenhouse gases. But as the world heats up, there's still enormous demand, and with a diminishing supply, the legal trade is flourishing. In 2020, the Environmental Investigation Agency went undercover to expose the scale of smuggling in Europe, the routes and the methods used.
We quickly discovered that while there may be a shortage, that wasn't the case when it came to suppliers.
Ascultă, eu pot să-ți dau factură, dar numai pe Ungaria și pe Germania.
Ce înseamnă asta?
Să nu arăți România factura.
Ok.
404 îți fac rost, am 4 modele, mai trebuie completare, oricum o să vin un transport lung.
Sunt mai multe modele, să se refrigerant, mai avem și... Am 3 modele acolo. Da, e aparat. Și asta e pasul 4, dacă vrei, îți și pe asta,
Nu, mai deschis.
Dacă cât este mai puțin, poate să mai scrii sau...
While that report concentrated on Romanian criminals and supplies from China via Ukraine, we've been back, undercover, to assess what, if anything, has changed.
Despite EIA having exposed this issue 2 years ago, not much has changed.
Entonces yo te digo, de aquí 2-3 años, el que tenga el 4-4 tiene oro. Lo voy diciendo, En serio, me lo voy diciendo por ahí. Chaval, si has comprado tus 4 botellitas, cógete el triple porque ya verás.
But I think one thing we have seen from these investigations is that criminals are evolving. They're getting more and more sophisticated.
Защото нямаме доверие на никой. Не те знаме дали не си някаква кука от икономическа полиция да се опитва да срути системата.
We're also looking at new countries. We've done some investigations in Bulgaria, which shows that this is another hotspot with huge networks of traders who then route HFCs on throughout the rest of the EU.
Както изписваш документ по принцип да го принасяте, няма да ви измени сметката, защото тук доста хора взимат за Испания. Няма да ми взимат за Испания, те сортират ги, тръгват по дестина. Те ги слагат там, не знам къде ги слагат и принасят.
And we found some new methodologies being used.
Por ejemplo, yo te mando 500 kilos y te hago una factura con herramientas, o como compresores, o como servicios.
We see tax evasion happening, and we also see a shift towards hiding or misdeclaring HFCs as HFO alternatives. These are lower climate impact alternatives which are often overlooked by customs. There's a real lack of awareness of this problem. Secondly, there's a lack of capacity. Even where there is will to do something, there isn't always the time or the means. And thirdly, to date we have had quite a complicated F-gas regulation, which certainly makes it harder for enforcement authorities to take action.
But probably the most successful country fighting the illegal trade is Spain. Unlike most other member states, it's introduced a tax on HFCs. The higher the global warming potential, the higher the tax.
In Spain, the problem is huge because for sellers it's the best market. First of all, because the taxes are so high that the price of the bottle in the legal market is double or 3 times the price, so the benefits in the black market is higher. And because Spain is hotter than any other country in the European Union, in general terms, so it's really more demanded.
And Spain's oldest law enforcement agency, the Guardia Civil, is responsible for combating the crime.
Once you investigate it once, sorry for being, then they change into these ones. Then in the future, algorithm is the same gas, but it's so far they can use it. So they changed from these ones to this one.
Major Astrain is the officer in charge of the Guardia Civil's Environmental Operational Unit. Within it, the Pollution Crime Group has around 13 agents split between investigations and intelligence, with 70 in the rest of the team.
At the beginning, there wasn't a conscious at all about what was going on with this HF gas, so smuggling was not even identified.
Initially, they investigated individual suppliers, carried out raids and seizures, but soon realised it wasn't enough. So, they adopted an approach that's unique in Europe among law enforcement when it comes to illegal HFCs.
After studying the whole phenomena, seeing that instead of decreasing, was growing up, and people from all that sort of crimes with criminal records for drugs trafficking, for car theft trafficking, for smuggling in general, were getting involved in HFC's trafficking, we got to the conclusion that the only way to really solve the problem was to approach it as what it is, organized crime.
And it's paid off. In June 2022, together with officers from other crime units and the tax authorities, they launched Operation Marum. It involved raids on 64 properties and the arrest of 27 people. $110 tons of different types of gases were seized, worth at least 11 million euros.
But we have also the financial problem. Why? Because the black market, what they are doing is not declaring it. They are not paying taxes, and we are talking about really high taxes. Actually, I think the assessment is about, just in Spain, 50 million euros is not being paid because of the smuggling.
So, what can be done to tackle this illicit trade? Well, EIA argues that there needs to be increased capacity and awareness of the crime amongst law enforcement organisations, and for them to take more action with the new powers in the revised F-gas regulation, which includes extra customs checks, better quota monitoring, and more scrutiny of companies involved in the trade throughout the supply chain. But our most recent investigation revealed it's not just organised crime getting involved in trading in illegal HFCs. There are scores of individuals selling them too.
What's shocking is how easily available illegal HFCs are on the internet. particularly on online trading platforms. For example, we came across one Spanish trader who actually uses his daughter's Facebook account to try and get new clients.
To combat the illegal trade, EIA recommends, among other things, that the new measures in the revised F-gas regulation be prioritised. The lessons learnt in Europe should be applied to the global HFC phase-down, and European governments and businesses should rapidly incorporate getting rid of HFCs in their net zero strategies.
The good news is there are alternatives to HFCs that we can use in cooling. There are F-gas-free natural refrigerants that have been around for a long time, are very energy efficient, and are certainly gaining popularity across the world.
But in the meantime, let's leave the last word to Major Restrain on how best to combat Europe's planet-threatening trade in illegal cooling gases, while other avenues are explored.
Since we approach it as organized crime, it's not about the seizure, because seizing gas, whatever the amount is, to these people means nothing to them. It's about dismantling the organization. You have to seize the money they have obtained doing this illegal activity.